Hi, good evening. I'm Dr. Harrison. I'm principal here at Legacy Magnet Academy. And this evening we are here with several of our parents representing 6th grade through 12th grade to talk a little bit more about sleep, the research behind the importance of sleep for our teenagers, and some strategies we can implement to help them get better sleep each night. We're going to start with the question, what do you think is the right amount of sleep for your student to get each night?
My name is Sarah, and I would say like around 8 hours. But if I'm being honest, my daughter and my son does, but my daughter, we don't do that right. I would say like 8 hours. She probably gets like a happy 5 hours.
I would say 9 to 10 hours.
10 would be nice.
Mine for sure do not get that much sleep. Like on the weekdays, they stay up late and they'll probably get 6 to 7 maybe, and then on weekends they'll sleep like 12.
So 9 to 10 hours is ideal. I noticed that he's in a better mood if he gets at least 9 hours.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Lily, my wife, shoots for, honestly, she's always espousing 9 to 11 hours.
Does the amount of sleep your student currently gets impact their life during the day or make it more difficult to complete their work? Do you see a change based on how much sleep they get?
Oh, for sure. Like when I'm driving home and in that like 15 minutes, I see them falling asleep. I'm like, oh no, you're not getting enough sleep at night. Like you need to be sleeping more because they should not be falling asleep in the 10 minutes they get in the car.
Yeah, definitely productivity and just how they try to rush through the work and the homework they're trying to get done.
Like on a night where you know they got more sleep versus a night where you know it was a short amount, is there a pretty clear visible difference in their behavior or their moods?
Well, so recently we actually just quit club for a little bit right now, and I'm thinking that we'll just continue not doing club, and they're in a much better mood. Yeah, and so I think a lot of it was exhaustion from all the practices and then not getting enough sleep because of that, but just in the last week, they've been in a better mood. Yeah.
And I have also noticed, because right now it's playoffs, so he's off, it's been off this week, and I've noticed that he, goes to sleep early and he wakes up in a better mood.
I also think that quality of sleep is better when they have activities in the afternoon. So the 2 days that my boys go to soccer practice, I think they are more willing to sleep earlier by themselves. And the next day, I see them much more active and much more engaged.
So the afternoon activity gets them tired for night and then better sleep, better next day. Interesting. How many of you would you say your kids go to bed before 10? And then how many after 10 is more likely?
One of my kids before and one of my kids
Okay.
after.
Yeah. Is it the older?
My older is after. My younger goes to bed like at 8. He's gone. He's out.
Wow.
So I have 2 6th graders, and they have to be in their bed at 8. And then they can read for a half an hour, but everything is at 8:30, everything is done.
My little one is out at 8:30. I don't care where you're at. If we could be in the middle of the loudest concert, she is out by 8:39, and it's just the way it is.
Yeah, I think mine used to go to bed early. I would say probably in the last 2 years. And as the years have progressed, they sleep later and later.
So the recommended amount of sleep per night for students at the grade levels that we have here at Legacy would be at least 9 hours per night. That's recommended. If your student is not getting 9 hours a night, what do you feel prevents them from doing so? What's holding them up?
Pia was saying about a routine, and we struggle, me and my husband, we struggle with a routine with our daughter. And so that would probably help better because she certainly, she does not get 9 hours of sleep, for sure.
And then for the older kids that play sports, and like you said, their sports ends 8 o'clock sometimes. By the time they get home, eat dinner, shower, it's 8 or 9, and then they still have schoolwork to do. And then, of course, the phone. I mean, we all know.
So we talked a little bit about the recommended being 9 hours and what we think might prevent our students. Is there anything else that any other reasons why you feel your students don't get enough sleep? Anything else holding them up? I know we talked a little bit about homework, or I think a few of you mentioned phones.
I have a pretty
Anything
unpopular opinion. I think they're massively overscheduled. I think kids, they're in so many things they don't need to be in. every sport ever invented. And so I think, of course, like there's no way you can get that amount of sleep if, you know, you're doing all of these things and then you have piano and drama and this. And I think they're just like massively overscheduled, which I know is not what people want to hear.
I think that's a good point. I do think, like, I think the sports, from what we've all heard, helps a lot. But I do think that, like, if, like, my kid, I can't imagine my kid had, like, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, and then, like, music class, and then, like, a quick little, like, dance class or something. I'd be like, oh, my God. I couldn't do that as an adult. That sounds horrible.
Times multiple kids.
Yes.
And multiple days of the week.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a tipping point of enough to get them tired, but not so much that they no longer can find time for sleep. Do you think that screen time has an effect on your students' ability to get enough sleep? Or what role do you think screen time plays in the whole equation?
Huge.
Huge.
How many of you are guilty of scrolling and screen timing before bed and not getting enough sleep?
Definitely.
Of course.
I actually had to delete the apps,
Did
so I
you?
haven't had them for a long
you.
time.
Good for you.
So are you
Good
getting
for
a lot more
you.
sleep?
I do, and I noticed I have a lot more free time. Every now and then I'll download it for a day or two just to catch up. Yes, but then I'll find myself like picking my phone up all the time and getting distracted with it, and so then I delete it again.
Yeah,
But
That's great.
yeah, I have to because I just can't control myself, and if I can't, of course they can't.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
I try to set boundaries, specifically on sometimes when it's like it's nighttime. Okay, I try not to check new emails. My biggest problem is checking the email and then responding right there and then, or responding to a text, feeling the need to respond. And I feel like he has the same habits because I'm like, well, you should respond if somebody texts you.
Also, the phones being in their rooms. So we've tried keeping the phones out of their rooms, charging somewhere else, and that did work.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Just weren't able to keep it up, but that was another tip.
Yeah. No, that's big.
Mine complain that they need their phones to do their homework, and I'm not 100% sure if that's true or not.
It's not true.
Or alarm clocks. They'll say, "Oh, I need it for
Yes.
an alarm clock."
And so then I'll take it in the morning with the alarm set
Yeah.
and leave it in their room for them to wake up to it.
That's smart, actually.
So that's not one of my scripted questions, but it is a question I have for you. That's in the book. That is one of the recommendations is to get the phones out of the room. That's one of kind of the leading causes of children and students not getting enough sleep at night is the presence of the phone in the room. Both because scrolling before bed as well as maybe waking up in the middle of the night and rather than trying to fall back asleep, grabbing the phone and checking and then scrolling and scrolling. How do you think your student would, if your student does have their phone in the room right now, how would they respond to you if you propose taking that phone from the
They
room?
need it for homework.
Like what?
They're
No.
gonna say they're gonna miss something relating to one of the activities they're on.
But they don't need the text in the middle of the night. So I like the fact that if you take it away and then you can just kind of slide it in.
And keep it at the charging station. The chargers aren't in their room. So if they want it charged for the next day at school, it had to be charged outside
That's
the
a
room.
good idea.
So how many of you do have students keeping their phone in their room at night? Where is that happening?
We're here.
Laptop.
About half. Okay.
Half.
Would you consider requiring them to keep it out of the room? Like, could you be convinced to have
Yes,
them keep it out of the room?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Do you have any other strategies you use to help your students fall asleep at night or go to sleep earlier? Like, what strategies are working for you in your household that maybe others could learn from?
I don't know if this is appropriate, but we do a sleepy girl mocktail. It's tart cherry juice, which is supposed to be like nature's melatonin, and then calm, which is a powdered magnesium, and then sparkling water.
Oh,
It's a great
It's actually really delicious, so we do that.
And you do that every night?
Not every night, just randomly we'll do it.
Yeah, that is fun. That's cute. Yeah.
I think sometimes talking out. So sometimes they can't fall asleep because there's something going on. There's something going on in, their friend group or whatever. Just kind of having that, like, what happened in, the rest of your day, kind of recap everything. And then, sometimes he'll bring up some issues and he'll be like, what do you think? How do I resolve this? And he tends to sleep better and he'll just be like, okay, that sounds good. I'll do that tomorrow.
The more conversations we're having about sleep and how important it is, they on their own have been like, oh, I'm gonna go to sleep now.
Once in a while, we try reading to the boys when they go to bed, And these are books that they normally don't pick up to read. Like they're more, they're not school type of books or things that are interesting to the boys, but they're topics that in their life, they might be, one of them was very interested in understanding how interest rates work, for example, right? So reading books, topics, reading topics that maybe they're not gonna go on their own to look into. As soon as I start reading, it doesn't take more than 10 minutes that everybody falls asleep.
We'll play like a podcast because I don't want to read to them. So you're a better parent than I am. And so I'll play like a podcast and then like a little bedtime story.
What do you think would motivate your student to get more sleep or to go to sleep earlier?
Money.
I will tell you and it was a very small sample, but the students we talked to while we were up at Stanford, both students from Legacy that came with us as well as students from other schools, when we asked them, they told us nothing.
How do you
Nothing would convince them.
Wow.
We said, what if
my
we gave you
gosh.
research that said no? What if we told you no? Like they said nothing would
Why are they
convince them.
so against sleeping?
I don't know. I don't think they buy it.
I like
So
the-
what for your kid would work? So money might work. What would convince
I
them?
always say
Yeah.
you grow when you sleep, and so they've bought it.
I like what you said about having I've never had a conversation with, like, me and my daughter talk about so many things, never had a conversation with her about sleep.
And we can start having these conversations because we did kick off the sleep campaign for this whole month. And so every day they're like learning little things here and there. They're having pajama days. And then once we have the speaker come and speak to them too, that's a great time to like also open that conversation and see what they thought and then kind of insert, your opinion on it. And hopefully they'll be receptive and, pick up a few things.
So this may be something that's on your radar and maybe it's not. But there's a real interesting kind of dynamic with some of our students, and I would say it's definitely more of a high school phenomenon than it is a middle school, around this kind of like almost like badge of honor for how little sleep you get. And they compare notes, and it's like, well, I only got 5 hours last night. Oh yeah, well, I only got 4 hours of sleep last night. And they compare back and forth. What are your thoughts on that? Have you heard that with your own students? Like, what do you think about this competition they've created amongst themselves for lack of sleep?
That's crazy.
I know. It is.
terrible.
It is terrible. But it's true. I do hear that. And then even like my kids will be like, oh my gosh, so-and-so said they only got this many hours of sleep. I'm like, and how were they functioning,
I think there's a little bit of it that the less I'm sleeping, it means the harder I'm working or the more I'm accomplishing. It's an interesting dynamic that I think we all weren't aware of until sleep kind of got on our radar as a big thing through Challenge Success. And as we started talking to the kids, we realized like more and more that like there really is this big competition between them for who got the least amount of sleep, because that means I stayed up later, I worked harder, I studied more, I XYZ.
I don't know, lack of sleep kind of makes me worried, like especially like older kids competing like that. Like what about if they're driving? Like, it's like,
That was one of our things with our girls, is
Yeah.
that you have to get enough sleep because if you're driving, you can't drive sleeping.
Just given everything you've heard tonight, given all the strategies you've heard, given the data you've heard with regards to how much sleep they should be getting and kind of the culture some of our students have created around it being cool to have the lack of sleep, or maybe that being like a badge of honor. How motivated are you to help your student get more sleep? And what are some steps you think you might take to start tackling that at home?
I'm going to try to take away their phone.
I think
Yes,
I'm
for
going to
sure.
try
Yeah.
to do that too.
I'm gonna do that too.
It'll be their Christmas present. I'm going to get them an alarm clock for Christmas and then be like,
No
we're
excuses.
switching
Yeah.
Like the wood paneled one.
I think having the conversation, like what Christine said, is a good jumping off point with actual facts, because he tends to do that when he's trying to prove something to me. So I think it's right back at you. These are, this is how many hours you should be getting to sleep, and then also just realizing how much better he feels when he's sleeping, 9-10 hours. Much better, kiddo.
Yeah, I have two teenagers, a 9th grader and a 10th grader, and they both don't have no phones, and I'm still struggling with that. That get me a phone,
Good job, Ma.
So they don't have no phones, and the only thing that I struggle with is, because my oldest one is in football, and my youngest one is no sports, but I do see the difference that it does affect them, the sport, you know.
I think for me, I'm gonna be more mindful about supporting Lily, my wife's efforts at nighttime, because she's the very disciplined one about, hey, it's bedtime, and so she's instilled in the kids a discipline of getting ready for bed, and it doesn't mean you immediately are gonna go to bed, but at least you're ready now. So when we do make the call that it's bedtime, you've already taken care of all, the business, brushing your teeth and whatnot. And so I think just supporting Lily more towards the end, and the other thing that I was going to mention earlier was when Caleb was in Boy Scouts, we went to an outing, and I remember the camp leader there was giving the story or the analogy of sort of at nighttime, bringing the analogy with the campfire, and that as the campfire goes down at a campsite, the energy comes down as well. And so we've been saying that a lot for the last couple of years at home, that, it's time to bring the energy down now. So we also model the behavior as parents by turning the TV off, because those things serve as distractions, even though, we have the right to watch the game at night.
Anything that you think we can do as a school to help support your efforts at home? Is there anything that we could do different?
I have one. A lot of assignments are due at 11:59.
That is something we've been talking about as a staff. We had it at midnight, and the athletes were struggling because by the time they got home from practice, it left them very little time. And then teachers were moving it to 2 or 3, but then that was just encouraging kids to stay up till 2 or 3. Then at one point, we had talked as a staff, and I don't know that collectively everyone has done it, but we had talked about actually changing the due times to the next morning. Thank you. That's a good reminder that it's time for us to come back to that conversation. Thank you.
I think constantly talk about it, how the importance it is, for their mental health to have a good sleep.
Great.
That's great that you guys are doing this. I talk to my daughter all the time. I've never had a conversation about sleep. Now I'm just kicking myself because maybe that's going to help her.
So you're leaving with some great ideas.
This is great.
That's fun.
This is fantastic.
I want the recipe for the calming juice.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
I think that one should be maybe possible.
Sleepy time martini.
Yeah.
I think it was really eye-opening for those of us on staff that went to the Challenge Success recent conference and learned more about the research on sleep and the effects it has on our teens. And we didn't realize how significant the lack of sleep was in our kids until we pulled them. And so in our recent, we do a student climate survey, and so this year for the first time we added in several questions about sleep to get we had some anecdotal ideas of what was going on, but we didn't have the hard details. And when we got the hard details, it really blew our minds about the lack of sleep our kids are getting. And so I think we all felt like we don't even have a choice but to tackle this and really hit it hard, because it's we can't blame the kiddos. They don't know. If we don't educate and share with them the research, that's on us as the adults in the situation. So I'm excited that the whole staff embraced it and wants to really share this with the students. But we appreciate you all being here and partnering with us, and I'm hopeful that it kind of catches on and that we start to see our kiddos get more sleep in the months to come. So,
and we are to blame as well too. As parents, we need to do things to support them and enforce certain things like sleep. So it's good to have these
team effort. Well, thank you all very much for your time tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.